Africana, Chapter 6. Written on Tuesday the 19th of July at 4 in the afternoon. So what's a freaking nightmare? The minibus definitely was not designed to take that much weight. It might have passed a roundabout test, but every bump in the road felt like we had crashed into a wall. Seats were so uncomfortable, and every time I managed to fall asleep the bus would brake and my head smash into the window. Anyway, we eventually arrived at a dark and creepy Candy Beach. A meal had been made for us, which was good, and Philippa got us all a round of drinks. After exhausting the free Wi-Fi and delivering oranges to Philippa, we got an early night to recover. The next day we had a glorious awakening to the reality of Candy Beach. It was a 20-second walk from our tent to the beach, along with a full bar and cafe. We had sausage and bacon for breakfast, and all was good in the world again. Jess celebrated by watching a pig slaughter, whilst I showered and headed for a swim. The water was absolutely Africally beautiful. Water was so warm. I kept getting in and out, and on my way met Andy, a local trying to sell me an African map with my trail on it. I said I'd have a look later. For the rest of the afternoon, I ate at the cafe, played volleyball, and drank too much. However, I could no longer avoid the repeated calls from Andy, so I went and sat with him. We played Bow, a simple board game with stones, and he showed the map. I really liked it, so agreed to get it. He found me later and gave me a picture of Malawians celebrating Christmas randomly. Later on, me, Andreas, Kat, Jessica, and Jess decided to rent canoes and paddle over to Candy Island. We were going to rent from the legit place, but instead haggled with the locals who ran down the beach and found some old ones carved from tree logs. There was a big one for the girls and a smaller one for each of the guys. The girls went first and failed miserably, requiring someone to get in and paddle for them. I got on mine then and discovered how hard it was. Because it was so round, it was hard to keep balance and stop it rolling. I just about got it and started paddling out, but the struggle was real. I got about a third of the way towards the island and was very tired. The sun was setting on Lake Malawi and the crocs would soon be arriving, so I headed back. Poor Andreas had worse luck, falling off like 30 times and never making it past the waves. We returned to the bar for a well-earned beer, more like 5, as the others rowed back. For dinner was a hog roast, which I was too drunk to appreciate, notice, or care. We had all chipped in to make a punch, which was delicious and enough to push me over the edge, especially when combined with games of Pyramid and Ring of Fire, though my cards got switched again. A load of people in cross-dress from another tour joined us, though the English girls were horrific. We had shots and finished off the punch to accompany our drunk conversation, featuring Ashley and her alter ego, Firecrotch. Time for bed came and me and Jess went to brush our teeth. On the way though, we came across the other tour bus. Drunk Jess let herself inside, and inside we found Paula with the other group. One of the girls bored Jess by explaining where every single thing on the truck was, and I upset a different girl by saying I thought she was from Essex. We finally made it off and brushed dem Nashers. I had left my cup at the bar, so we went to find it. However, the usually sleepy dogs had awoken and started following us and growling. Worried Jess made us go back to the other tour bus again, where this time their leader had joined and was getting high. After seeking refuge for a bit, we finally got to the tent. Understandably, we were hungover the morning of the 17th, but luckily had arranged an 8 a.m. horse ride. I thought this was the end for me, especially when the horse I was to be riding started freaking out. However, it was surprisingly fine, and even though I had the hungriest horse ever, we had a lot in common. It was fun. We even took them into the lake. Another fun-packed day awaited. I met Andy and gave him a t-shirt whilst also meeting Mr. Sugar and Spice, who I traded my trousers, shorts and socks for a wooden globe. It was pretty hilarious seeing people walking around in my clothes the rest of the day. After constantly being attacked about free boards for rental, absolutely free boards, we took up the offer and went for a paddle and surf. I returned for another great lunch. We had arranged a fishing and snorkeling trip over to the island with some locals. I helped paddle with concentration, and on arrival ran straight to the highest point for the great view. Fishing was hard and boring, but we caught all the fish, leaving none for Yanni. The locals jumped on the boat and left us without warning, but luckily returned, bringing a Sri Lankan family who got way too familiar with us. I was climbing down the rocks to snorkel, but stood on a slippery rock and fell pretty bad on my left leg. I was okay, but this was going to be a source of pain for the next few days. We explored the island, finding rocks to jump off, which I almost did, but my height fear returned. After being filmed extensively by the Sri Lankans, it was time to return to the beach. On arrival, Andy was waiting for me with my completed map. I walked with him across the beach and said goodbye. That evening we had the village meal where we went to William's house, who was a chief, and his wife made us food. The walk there was in darkness and terrifying. Kids could be heard laughing from the trees and would run across the path suddenly. A few followed Gian like they could sense her fear. I freaked out at one point as I almost stood on a kid that was lying on the floor. We sat on mats outside William's house and enjoyed the delish food, particularly the sweet potato soup. Afterwards, the village kids gathered and sung for us. They also showed us some of their provocative dancing, and we were forced to join. It was actually pretty fun, and the kids were cute. We were tired, but returned to bar to hang, but I accidentally got through half a bottle of rum. Bed called. Awoke to our last day at Candy Beach. It was a strange day, as our new truck could arrive at any point, and we needed to be ready to leave. I called a volleyball game, which saw me, Andreas, Gian against Gorka, James and Katrin. There were no winners, just many, many losers. I went out on a board again and had a more successful day, but the boards were still very shit. I sunbathed a bit and Andreas challenged me to foosball, which I was terrible at. Me and Jess got lunch and we continued to wait. Eventually the bus came. It was all hands on deck to pack everything in and get the hell out of this paradise. Due to being behind schedule, we could not make it to Shitimri Beach, so went to a campsite in Mzuzu. We arrived later, but they had prepared a spaghetti bolognese for us. But more importantly, there were complimentary ponchos to wear at dinner. The site was a fairy dreamland and was decorated amazingly. There may be too much owl information. However, due to her and horrendous 4 a.m. departure, I could not lend full appreciation to the camp's beauty. We quickly packed up and had just enough time to grab a coffee, a jam sandwich, before being imprisoned on the truck. I wanted to sleep, but everything was so uncomfortable. I wanted to die instead. Luckily, a beautiful sunrise made me change my mind. We arrived at the Tanzania border early, and everything went fairly smoothly apart from Gorka getting interrogated. We exchanged money to get 100,000 of Tanzanian shillings. Suddenly felt like millionaires. We moved on and gradually rose higher and higher. There were huge valleys everywhere and rocks risen out of the forest. It was incredible. We reached a small village in the mountains that was very real Africa. We wandered through a village market and were confronted by confused but friendly people. I got some samosas and a chip omelette, all of which was nice but came in a puddle of oil that left me feeling a little sick. But back on the road for more and more driving. So many roadworks now, so no shit what time we'll get in tonight, but it will be late.